that. Alright, let's do the oh Jesus, Bulgarian split squats. These are not necessarily for a heavy amount of exercise or anything like that. This is just mobility stuff. And so that's to stretch out the hip flexor in general, but then also for this particular workout, it's to activate the, well, not that gluteus, this gluteus maximus, descemus meridius. Same again on the other foot. 2, 3, 4, 5. 10. And I am getting the fly swatter because that is an intolerable amount of flies here. You probably hear the snap now. By the way, if you have a fly problem, I'd advise getting one of these. They're really handy and they leave no mess other than the carcasses. But like fly spray, it's effective, but like it does kind of mess up your windows and counters, and you know, especially if there's like a couple of flies that are in your kitchen or something. It's summer, you've left your windows open, you know, they'll just pop in. You don't want to be using fly spray while you're getting the food ready. It's not conducive with good health. Okay, this needs to get out the way. Is it of any use? I don't think it does. Let's just get this right way out. Check of the angle. I'm gonna move this back a little bit. Last year, obviously they're back again. They just crawl over everything, and no matter how many times I could spray the anti-insect stuff, they just constantly come by, and they don't really do much. Like, they don't cause much harm or anything like that, but they are so annoying because they fly all around you and like literally like crawl up your shins, and if you're trying to work out that, it's just like gross. This is still just the sort of warm-up part of this. 10. We're still up to 15. 15. It's the way I like to warm up. And I think it's just a good way to warm up in general. Now this works better from a home gym rather than an actual gym because you'd be taking up more than one station in doing this. But sometimes if you're coming in and it's not busy, you'll be able to get away with it. You're not kind of bothering other people by taking up multiple stations because there's very few people in the gym. But I like to do, I think it's like slightly based off of a routine. I think it's German volume training. German volume, GV. Anyway, and all it is just you do an exercise, then you do a different exercise, and you circle around it. So it's a circuit. And what I find is that if you have access to all of the pieces of equipment, it's significantly faster because you don't really have to worry about your rest periods so much, because it's like by the time you've set up to do the next exercise, whatever it may be, the previous muscles that were being worked the last time, you need to catch your breath and all a little bit, but the muscles have had like a good 5 minutes, if not longer, to recuperate a bit. And then so when you come back to doing the deadlift, you've done a lot of exercises that were not related to a deadlift prior to it, so your legs are ready for set number 3, set number 4, set number 5, and so on. And at the same time, it's a little bit of a, there's more than mosquitoes, or not mosquitoes, midges. By the way, that doesn't click when I press the button, that clicks when there's a hit. Headshot! Alright, so we're just going to do 10 because this is just a warm up. Six. 9. 10. We'll do one more overhead press, and then we'll start changing everything into reps of 5 rather than the warm-up stuff. Bulgarian split squats, I'll still be doing reps of 10 and I won't be adding any weight to them because the purpose of those split squats is not to build a huge amount of muscle, it's just to stretch the hip flexor and see what I mean, like endless. Stretch the hip flexor and activate the posterior chain, which is fancy talk for all the muscles down the back part of your leg rather than the front muscles, which is a problem that I've been having. Alright, overhead press. This will be the last warm-up set. After this, we'll be using the barbell. these. I don't even know how to prevent them growing, because like I try not to have plants growing in the back garden, just because the dogs, if had plants growing in the back garden, that means they need to be soiled. If there was soil, the pair of them are they love digging around the ground. So whenever like dogs do that, they just like straight away their paws are filthy and they just bring it into the house, which is just more work, more work, more work. More work that sort of doesn't have to exist. I'm a big believer that prevention is better than cure. Prevent the problem before it happens, rather than thinking of the best way to deal with the problem when it does happen. It takes more discipline, because you're not dealing with a problem, you're kind of imagining a problem, so you're less motivated to do it. There's no progress, there's no gain. It's a prevention thing rather than a progress thing. When you have an injury and you're told stretch this, that and the other every day and you'll get better, you'll feel the progress of doing those stretches every day. You feel like you're able to walk better. You feel like you're able to, move in a particular way that's not as daunting as it used to be, like 3 weeks ago. But if you go the other way around, where it's like, yeah, you should be doing yoga 3 times a week, and that way you'll never get the injuries in the first place. You're already fit as a fiddle, you're fine. You're doing grand. And so whenever you're thinking of like, why would I want to do this yoga stuff when I could be doing something else that would help with my progress? I could be lifting weights again, or something like that. My energy could be used in another way, and so it's hard to get motivated to do mobility stuff and stretching and flexibility when you don't think you need it, which you don't. You need it later on in life, and that later on in life could be a year. You're a rugby player and you're not able to get really low when you're rucking over, or when you need to tackle, and now you have a problem that you could have prevented had you been more disciplined with your flexibility. Hey, get away from that! Get away from that! Get away from that! You know what I mean? Try telling a teenager that. And that's not said in a condescending way. I was a teenager and I didn't do any of that shit. I didn't want to. I wanted to lift things up and down more and more and see the progress. Okay, so warmed up on the cable machine. Now what we're doing with the cable machine is one arm. Because not that it's a major goal, but something that I'm aiming for is to be able to do a one-arm pull-up at some point in my life. I think that's a really cool sort of achievement. And a good party trick as well, If ever you're in the gym or whatever and you're with new people and that sort of the pissing contests begin, I feel like a one-arm pull-up is just a very much, it doesn't matter how much you're able to squat, able to bench press. It's like it's a different level. 6. We'll go up to 8. Alright, switch sides. And I find it really weird, but for whatever reason, my left arm is way stronger with doing that, but I'm right-handed. And you know, typically if you're right-handed, you're always stronger on that hand because you just use it for everything more. Here's a little fun fact. It's the opposite if you're right-footed. Your left leg will often be significantly stronger and better for balance, because that's what it does. If you are right-footed and you kick a ball or you do something with your right foot, you know, you would open a door or whatever, you'd do that. This foot is the balancing thing, and that's actually the harder thing to do. You know, like if you're on a scooter, this leg is doing most of the work, while it looks like the other one is doing the work, but this leg will be the thing that gets tired first. And so that's why if you're right-footed, your left foot is stronger, but right-handed will usually be stronger. Okay, so we'll do deadlift. This is for 5 repetitions, not 10. So we'll increase by 10 kilos. I could definitely go a bit heavier than that, but the dogs are outside and Leela, oh god, fucking things are everywhere. Yeah, Leela is she's not a smart dog really. She's lovely and all. She's very kind, has a wonderful nature, but she's not particularly smart. So she, evidently neither am I. If I'm doing the deadlift, she might just wander over because she's just very cuddly and she just wants to be around people. So we'll move her in for when we get the weight sort of dangerously heavy that I wouldn't have like a huge amount of control over. Whereas 5 repetitions of 110 kilos, that's not crazy stuff for me. We'll go to 6. I lied about going to 6. Whew. with the barbell this time. So aiming for 5 repetitions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, not feeling strong for that particular movement today. But as if any of you guys are regulars to see me doing strength training stuff, it's important to not really give a shit about your performance on the day, because it's not about performance on the day, it's about you showing up on a regular basis. That's so much more important than how you perform on a particular day. Because if you overperform, if you stress yourself out and you hurt yourself, not even hurt yourself, you just strain a muscle a little bit, you try to go to failure when you weren't planning on doing that in that particular day because you made yourself a program, or like a PT made you a program, or you followed a program off the internet and you didn't adhere to it because you were feeling strong that day. And then you strain your muscle a little bit. It's not a big deal. But then you can't train the next day because you just feel wrecked. And then that's one day of training, that's a whole day of training missed because you had really bad DOMS, you had really bad delayed onset muscle soreness, or you were just really tired, or you felt that you had earned a day off. And while taking a day off isn't a bad thing, but it's was that day off planned? Days off are very important for recovery, but if it wasn't planned, then it's not a day off, it's a day missed. And if you think you do 8 points, let's just use a little point system here, out of 10. You used 8 points out of 10 to hit a personal best. Let's give it 9 points. To hit a personal best when you were meant to be doing 7 points for less effort. And the next day, you missed that day. And so you're at 9 points for 2 days. Whereas if you were to go in, do the 7 amount of effort out of 10, and the next day you can do the 7 amount of effort, you're at 14 points versus 9, which is significant. Over a month, over a week, that'll add up fast. Over 2 days, it's already adding up fast. Now those numbers might have been, a bit extreme. Maybe it would have been smarter to go, 5 and 9. But it would still show, second day you're at 10 points, whereas the other day you're at 9. Yeah, this is one of the little things I really hate about those little sort of clouds of flies. They just make you paranoid. Every little sort of blowing of the wind that touches off your hair, you think, oh my god, I'm being eaten alive by these little mozzies. Okay. So we'll start on the other hand this time. I'm going to really try and pay attention to why my left hand is stronger for just this particular exercise. I wonder if it's something connected to the stiffness of my neck. Because whenever I go walking the dogs these days, Leela, Mom, in you go. Whenever I walk the dogs these days, I use that as an opportunity to train with the weight vest. Leela, come on inside. Good girl. In you go. Because that's like, not necessarily walking the dogs to the weights. My favourite thing in the whole world, by such a huge margin, is to do multiple things at the same time. So if I'm walking the dogs, obviously that's a productive thing that I need to do. And then if I'm walking the dogs in a weight vest, that's again another productive thing that I've added to that and hasn't really detracted from the other thing. And maybe if I do a diary entry for YouTube or whatever, while doing that, or write a script for what I need to do, then that's 3 things that I've done in one amount of time. Let's do 8. And like right now, often you'll hear me say at the end of these live streams where I'm working out about how I'm really grateful that like you guys who are watching it, you've held me to accountability. That is true, because it's a double thing. I'm getting my workout, but I'm also doing something on social media, which is ultimately, both of those things are ultimately for the end result of breaking the charity world record, and they both reinforce each other. You know, you need to do this for YouTube. You haven't done it in a while. You need to work out. You haven't done it in a while, and so both of those 2 things kind of like create this motivation to stick to the plan. So, if ever you see me saying like, you know, I'll say it at the end of this as well, if you think like, you know, he's just he's talking shit, that's like the thing that people have to do on social media, or celebrities say to the fans, where it's like, you know, Homelander, you guys are the real heroes, you know, but it's clearly a lot of shit. I genuinely do mean it. I'm sure lots of celebrities mean it as well, you know, where it's like, you know, you guys watch my films, you guys came to my theatre, you guys came to my gigs, like it matters a lot to me, thank you very much. I'm sure there are many artists that really, truly believe that, but there's also, like we all know as well, there's also a lot of fucking arrogant wankers out there, and sure, often they've been exposed. One of the benefits I get from everyone having a camera these days, I don't think it's an overall good thing, but certain aspects of it are definitely better for society, with an added layer of accountability. But to be clear, there's accountability and then there's zero privacy and zero sort of, like you have to walk around like you're on eggshells all the time now. So like I used to be a wild fucker at a music festival, running around naked, you know, doing all that sort of fun stuff. And I feel like you really can't do that now, or you could get in a lot of trouble, you know. You're not just your mammy sees it, but like, you know, maybe you work in a branded named company and there's a video of that happens to go viral, and like, you know, it was you at a music festival and the urinals were full, so you peed on the wall around the back, which is fairly common to do. It's not like, you know, extremely bad practice. I would say that it's worse bad practice for the actual festival organisers for not putting up enough toilets. And then, you know, that video goes viral and he loses his job, or she loses her job, and it's just kind of like, here, you know, it wasn't really that bad. 5. Oh, that was not pretty. It was pretty shitty. I think that'll be a more accurate assertion of the situation. Okay, this is 130 kilos and we're going to try and do it for 5 repetitions. And this will be the last one for a while because I got to go to a physio. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to be able to do that. Grip is really weak today. Right, it's not today. Let's get the wraps, wherever they may be. Yeah, I guess I'm just not, I must be a bit tired today. Previously I was able to do 6 repetitions of 130 kilos. So let's add a little bit. I don't want to go too heavy. Because normally what I do is maybe it was because I was doing that. Oh, no, the overhead press is fairly substandard as well. But yeah, I try not to use the wraps until the very last set because it's very heavy on the legs. And I like to really make sure that they're warmed up and, you know, ready for the. I was just chewing something. I'm just checking if that's a. Chew toy. No. Bunny, no. No. So we'll just do 140. Yes, yes, yes. I know. Do 140, and then we'll do a kind of a max rep of the one-handed cable pull, which will probably be very hard after this. Maybe easier seeing as how I'm using the wrap, so my grip strength isn't going to be so much of a factor. Okay. So I always do that little communist royal we stuff too often just because I'm far too geared to doing it on social media whenever I'm making videos. That's, I guess, think about that. That's how much I make videos with scripts. It's actually changed the way that I speak slightly, and that I don't say I as much as we these days. Even just a conversation with another human being, like, I constantly make that mistake. Alright, so what I'll do now is, seeing as how I want to catch my breath back, you know, do the exercises properly. I'll use that time to do a little bit of clean up, which if you're in a gym, unless you have an extremely fancy pants gym where they specifically say, you know, you don't have to clean up your plates, we pay, you know, for the trainers to take care of that. I'm just playing. The dogs are barking. You should always make sure the gym is kept tidier than you got it, because there's always some dickhead who doesn't put the weights back at all, or doesn't put the weights back properly, you know, and they just think, oh, there's a free slot, and they'll put the weights there, and they won't think of one, it's going to be hard for someone else to get to a 20 plate. It means they have to strip everything off in order to get to that specific plate. Or they could just be like, you know, an old lady who's not tall enough to grab something heavy off of the top ring, and you're tall, and it's easier to put something there rather than go down to there. So you put the 25 kilo weight up on one of the higher runs, but then she can't do that, and she has to either, you know, find another plate that's lower that she can put on the bar herself, or she has to go over and ask someone. And it's always a little bit, even in this context I'm talking about like a woman, but it's that same sort of thing where it's like a little bit humiliating, demasculating. It's not like, you know, humiliating, but there's a little bit of like a, excuse me, could you get that thing off because I'm unable to do it. You know, no one wants to, especially if you're in the gym, you don't want to kind of admit that you're physically unable to do something, even if it's perfectly acceptable. You know, you're an old lady, you're like, you know, you're 80 years of age. The idea that you can't pull a 25 kilo weight vest that's over your head is not something to be ashamed about at all, but it still is a little bit kind of like, you don't want to say it, you know? So don't be that guy who sort of forces someone else in the gym to go through that experience. And if you're thinking like, you know, oh, you're too lazy to do it, then you should adopt a different mentality to it, which is, this is not necessarily like an extra effort from you, you know, for someone else. Think about it as extra effort for you to train your body to be stronger. So something that I always try to do is whenever I'm cleaning up in the gym, no, well, even this gym, I still do the same thing. I try to focus on my left hand more, and I try to pinch the weight, so it actually is an active exercise, kind of like a farmer's walk, to bring the weight to the rack and then stack it in the right position with the hand, which is functional strength training. So think of it like that. Don't think of it as like, you know, you're going for like, you know, Tidy Towns 2026 in the gym that you're in. Don't think of it like that. Think of it like, you know, you want to do that little bit of extra training and save time. Again, come back to my favorite thing. You're saving time, you're cleaning up the gym while at the same time doing your functional training. Okay. Done. Thank you all very much for making me accountable, for getting my workout done again. And build a blank. I will make an effort to set it up so that I can see the chat in a better way. At the moment, the default for my YouTube live stream is to just have the comments come in and fly away. And I don't want to do that. It's obviously, it is something that I could do on TikTok, but TikTok is a lot of shit. Even if you're brand new, don't go to fucking TikTok. It is a very manipulative social media platform that is incredibly frustrating as a creator. It will blast one of your videos up and you'll get loads of views someday, and you'll think, oh my god, this is going to be my career now. But I'm at 6.4 million followers on TikTok, and my average videos don't go past 64,000 views, meaning that less than 1% of my audience ever gets to see my videos, which is just a big pile of shite. So I would not advise going onto TikTok. They will manipulate you at the start to make it seem as though that's the platform that you're going to be successful on. Don't fall for it. Grind your way through YouTube, grind your way through Instagram, grind your way through Twitch, and you will be more grateful later on, because that progress will continue to go up. Whereas what TikTok does is it goes, and then it says, fuck you, keep working. It'll get you hooked is what it tries to do. It hooks you into thinking that, you know, this is the way. So you keep coming back to it, but it won't deliver again. So don't fall for that. From experience, don't fall into that pit. And but one thing it was good for was the chat was easier to follow in terms of who's talking and when. But I will make that happen on YouTube in some regard. So yeah, good luck. And be sure to work out today. Lift up things that are on the ground and put them back down again. Work your butt off.